a young person's relationship to music is completely different. It's a badge. It's the outfit you wear. It's the group that you have decided to either reject or to join, or reject everything. It's how you separate yourself from everyone else. And what makes me excited is to see young people that know a lot of these old songs and realize that they're doing what I did as a teenager with our music, and that's the whole point.
Today we're taking a closer look at one of the most powerful voices in rock history, Chris Cornell. From his rise to fame with Soundgarden and Audioslave to those haunting final days, this video will walk you through his life, legacy, and the impact he left on the world. In the comments, what was your favorite Chris Cornell song? Chris Cornell was born Christopher John Boyle on July the 20th of 1964 in Seattle, Washington. He was one of 6 children in a Catholic family. His parents, they divorced when he was young, and he adopted his mother's maiden name, Cornell. Chris, he was a quiet and introverted child. He struggled with anxiety and depression early in life, even dropping out of school in his early teens. Music, it became his refuge. He taught himself to play the drums and later the guitar, and he often credited the Beatles as a huge early influence. At just 12 years old, he began experimenting with drugs. By 14, he had stopped altogether, but sadly he would continue battling that addiction for the rest of his life. In the early 1980s, Cornell worked as a dishwasher and a line cook while playing with local bands. In '84, he formed Soundgarden.
Really, at the time that Soundgarden first started, it was just 3 of us. It was me and Kim Thile on guitar and Hiro Yamamoto on bass, who had become my roommate. And he played bass and I played drums at the time. And because we lived together, we thought, well, we're a rhythm section, let's start a band. And I had been in several bar bands at the time, from about 17 to then I think I was 20. And I had this idea or this ambition that if I were a fantastic drummer and just focused on what I did and was very great, that some fantastic band that wrote great songs would knock on my door and say, come be in my band. And I had this image of some band like U2 at the time, which was, they had put out, I think, 3 records, and I thought this is what I'll be and this is what I want to do. And I was in several bands, and it was just one bad band after another. No one was writing songs I liked. It wasn't music that I liked, really, and I came to the conclusion, I think at the same time as Kim and Hiro, that if you want a band where you're playing music that you love, you just pretty much have to start it yourself.
Soundgarden became one of the pioneering bands of the grunge movement, alongside Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Alice in Chains. In 1989, they released Louder Than Love, which earned them the much-deserved national attention they got.
And that was always my fear along the whole way, was that we were not capable of changing who we were for anyone, for an audience, for a record company, for television, for anything. So it was going to have to be done on our terms. And slowly but surely we saw that the industry was kind of shifting toward us, and we weren't ever going to be put in the position where we would have to think about shifting toward that.
But it was their 1994 album, Super Unknown, that exploded into the mainstream.
I think we were fortunate in that we made this album that was kind of redefining the band and pushing the boundaries right at the time when people we had everyone's attention.
Yeah, everyone was looking for that.
So they listened to it.
Yeah.
And in that way, I think we were very fortunate.
Featuring hits like Black Hole Sun and Fell on Black Days. The album went triple platinum, and they earned a Grammy Award. Cornell's voice was powerful, raw, and full of emotion. It was unlike anything else on the radio. But behind the scenes, things, they weren't that easy. As grunge became more commercialized, Cornell struggled with the fame, the pressure, and his ongoing battle with that substance abuse that he's always had. After Soundgarden disbanded in 1997, Cornell released his first solo album, Euphoria Morning.
Read through all the lyrics right now and remind myself of what was the moment that's actually me and what's a character that I'm creating. And some moments that are clearly me are also moments that I've seen in a lot of really close friends. And I could be speaking for me, I could be speaking for them, or hopefully somebody else I've never met before. Because the universal quality is the thing that, to me, is exciting when somebody can hear lyrics and feel like someone else out there is going through what they're going through, and previously they thought they were the only one, you know.
It was a more introspective, melodic album. It was praised by critics, but it wasn't a huge commercial success. Then in 2001, he joined forces with the former Rage Against the Machine members to form Audioslave.
When Audioslave formed and we were actually making the first album, there were a whole lot of people who were Rage fans or people who were Soundgarden fans that were just doing this and, you know, horrible idea and corporate sellout crap and that kind of thing. And I actually sort of stood and said, we're not going to make any statement or any response. We're just going to let the music come out there and live, and that's our answer.
Cornell's vocals were again front and center, this time in a heavier, politically charged sound. Audioslave released 3 albums, they toured the world, and even performed in Cuba, the first American rock band to do so. Despite all that success, Cornell left that band in 2007, citing personality conflicts and musical differences. In the late 2000s, Chris began focusing on family and sobriety, and started the Chris and Vicky Cornell Foundation, helping vulnerable children facing poverty and abuse. Chris rejoined Soundgarden in 2010, and they released a new album, King Animal, in 2012, and they toured heavily.
If you're a band on tour and you're like trying to make money, it makes much more sense to play one big place and then move on, and then you can do a lot more places. And for my money, it's more fun to do 3 nights in a smaller place. But you know, at the end of the day, particularly as in a bad economy with costs don't get lower, even though the economy's bad, it's higher, and it's like you want to bring your show to and your music to as many people as you can. So at some point, I think we'll open it up and play bigger places.
He also contributed to movie soundtracks like You Know My Name, the James Bond theme for Casino Royale. In interviews, Cornell appeared more centered. He seemed to be more at peace. And on May 17th of 2017, Soundgarden performed in Detroit, Michigan at the Fox Theater. Fan footage shows Chris smiling. He was joking with the crowd. But he also seemed a little bit off, distracted, maybe tired. After the show, he returned to his hotel room at the MGM Grand, and at 12:15, he spoke briefly with his wife on the phone. She noted he was slurring his words, and he seemed groggy, and she called the bodyguards to check on him. Just after 1 o'clock, Cornell was found unresponsive in his bathroom, with a red exercise band around his neck. Paramedics attempted resuscitation. Sadly, it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 1:30, and he was only 52 years old. The cause of death was ruled suicide by hanging. Toxicology reports, they found prescription drugs in his system, including Ativan, which can cause disorientation and suicidal thoughts when misused. However, the medical examiner said the drugs were not a direct cause of the death. Cornell's death, it shocked the world. And sadly, just 1 year later, his close friend Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, who sang at Chris's funeral, would also take his own life. Chris Cornell left behind one of the most dynamic voices in rock history, with a 4-octave range and a soul deep delivery that could shake you to your core. He's been hailed as one of the greatest rock singers of all time, and his influence spans generations. His life was one of brilliance and pain, of battles won and lost. But above all, it was marked by music that spoke to millions. It was raw, honest, and unforgettable.